All right, welcome back. And today we're going to be taking a look at UFC 287 Pereira versus Adesanya 2. We're going to go down the main line or the main card and just go ahead and give our predictions, what we think is going to happen in the fight, and if maybe any upsets happen, we'll try to pick them out right now and hopefully get some people's bets up. I have the main event as being kind of a fun fight. Christian Rodriguez put on a pretty good performance against Joshua Weems in his second outing with the UFC. He did have a contenders win over Junior Cortez back in 21. Probably got the decision. Looks like he kind of had to go through the rounds again. And by rounds, I mean one fight against Ryan McIntosh. So decent wins. Looks like an okay challenge, but a lot of people are really going for Raul Rosas Jr. Steven, have you seen all that you need to see from Raul Rosas Jr. to cement him as a contender in the division, or do you think he needs to be proven a bit more?
I would like to see a little more. I feel like we're kind of getting the Sean O'Malley effect where we're going to see them get put up against a lot of opponents that wouldn't normally give the hype that they give, but they try to get that nice highlight reel going, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
Sean O'Malley, his first three or four fights, it was all highlight reel, but you couldn't name the opponents.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we're gonna start getting that same thing, which is fine because they want to build up these hot prospects and everything. But as far as being a real contender, I definitely want to see more. The last fight we didn't see a whole lot, but I do have him winning by a first round submission just because I think he's gonna come out the gate just looking to get that next highlight.
Now, listen, I like Raul Rosas Jr. as a grappler. One of my very first competitions back into the jiu-jitsu world, he was competing same day. I want to say he was a couple divisions weight classes below, but he was still putting on a show there. His ground game is nothing to scoff at. I think he takes out most guys with his ground game before he starts getting into the upper echelons of 135, which is a stacked division across all of MMA. I don't want to make any mistake about saying that there's a difference between PFL and all this. 135 across Bellator, PFL, one everywhere. It is stacked and it is hard to come and make a name for yourself for. And so for Raul Rosas Jr. to be able to do this and to be able to make a name, especially latching onto that youngest fighter kind of thing, came in at 17 years old and really wants to be a champion inside of, he said, 2 years, so he needs dominant stoppages in order for people to be like, yeah, go ahead and give him the Cyril Gahn treatment where this guy is just different, right? We're going to give him a title shot at 12-2 or 12-1. Rosas is looking at what, 7-0. Christian Rodriguez looking 8-1. I think this is a competitive matchup for him. Christian Rodriguez has been around, I think, in the same fashion that Raul Rosas has been around. So I'll still take Raul Rosas Jr. Only just because he's the favorite, and I don't think that the UFC would want to stop that hype train. Moving on to Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. Ah, God, I butchered that name so bad.
Ponzinibbio?
Yes, Bibio. um, Kevin Holland actually getting into the news or the MMA news for getting into it with Jorge Masvidal, another fighter on the card. Did you happen to see that video?
I did. That just seems standard at this point. Everyone's either getting into it with Masvidal or they get into it with Chimaev. It just seems like the norm now.
Do you think that it's a problem with Masvidal and Chimaev, or do you think that these are just fighters who bump shoulders and kind of need to puff their chest a bit?
I think Masvidal definitely has that, where
Mm-hmm.
if somebody crosses him and there's something like a little off with the interaction, I feel like I don't even really need to back up my claims. All we need to do is look at the three-piece Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if something happens, Masvidal is very quick to react. I feel like Chimaev It's similar, but I do feel like Chimaev kind of plays into the villain character a little bit.
Yes,
I
I would
don't think
agree.
he's at the same level as Masvidal, where Masvidal is just like, did you look at me? Like, were you looking at me? Like, I don't get that with Chimaev, but Masvidal 100% I think is that.
Yeah, and not to forget. I mean, I'm sure it's still fresh in everyone's mind, but the Colby interaction and now the lawsuit, and
Yep.
Masvidal is now saying that Colby shouldn't be fighting for the belt, and there's a number of reasons he can claim that too, but he's alluding to the brain damage, right? That's what like he shouldn't be fighting because of that.
Yeah.
Either way, Kevin Holland versus Santiago, I think it's going to be a good fight. Let's take a look at Santiago's last couple wins here and last couple losses. So winning against an older Alex Morano. I think I had Alex Morano in that fight only because I still have some of the UFC Strike NFTs, and he's one of them. But Alex Morano he's a bit of an older fighter. I think this is just letting two veterans kind of go at it. Two losses to Michael Pereira and Geoff Neal. I'm not saying that they're bad losses or anything like that, but Michael Pereira, I don't think has looked the same in a while. Geoff Neal's still a good loss. Win against Miguel Baiza and a loss against Li Ji Liang. So
Yep.
he's up and down the division. He's seen a good amount of action. Same with Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland maybe a little bit crisper though on the striking, and I expect him to exploit that. The last time he came out, he got a nice fight with Stephen Thompson. That was a fun fight to watch, and I still remember that one pretty well.
It
How do you have
definitely
this
was.
one playing out?
I'm leaning towards Santiago because of the factor that I always kind of start to default to with Chimaev, the fight with Holland. After that, he claimed he retired. And then Holland was like, just kidding, got a fight with Stephen Thompson. And then they ended up having to stop the fight with Stephen Thompson because of the doctor stoppage. But even then,
It
or
was a
no, corner
corner stoppage.
stoppage.
Yep.
Yeah, corner stoppage. But even then, we were watching that fight together. We were talking for the last round before that maybe they should be stopping it.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is Holland coming into this not as confident as he normally is? Because that plays a huge factor into a fighter's ability. If their confidence isn't there because, how the last fight went and then the Chimaev fight, that was, it was a Chimaev fight. Unless you're Gilbert Burns, it's just Chimaev 100%.
I
So,
here's my thing with this. So you look at who Kevin Holland's lost to, and it's got to be elite people. I'm gonna say Stephen Thompson's elite. He might not be championship caliber, even at his age, like in the same way that Glover Teixeira was championship caliber. But I think he's elite. You can't deny the fact that he's still taking hard fights. And that fight against Kevin Holland, that was a risky fight for him. You know what I mean? That's a loss against Khamzat Chimaev. Yeah, I think he came into that fight a bit. It was short notice, I want to say, right?
yeah, because they switched everything around last second
That's right, because
because
I
of
think because Khamzat
the
got
whole
into
weight
it.
thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
That. So to me, he also has losses to Marvin Vittori and Derek Brunson, but he has impressive wins over guys like Joaquin Buckley, Derek Brunson.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, not Derek Brunson. Ronaldo Souza, right? So that knockout that he got from like his seated
back.
guard, yeah, that's still going to be like entrenched in my head for a good minute. That being said, it just depends. Do you think Santiago is a guy that is of that same caliber that Kevin can lose to?
I think if he shows up, he's feeling good, he's feeling healthy, and he's feeling confident, and Kevin Holland gets in there and he is not 100% feeling confident, Kevin Holland tends to get into this weird thing where he starts talking a lot and the fight starts to slip away from him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if we see a little bit of that happen. I mean, the Derek Brunson situation was perfect for that. Like, it became a weird thing where Derek Brunson was just kind of controlling him and he was just kind of talking to him the whole time. So it makes me wonder if maybe he's not going to be all there in the sense of like sense of urgency, aggression, you know,
Hmm.
the things that would make him 100% win the fight. So that's why I'm leaning towards Santiago because of that factor.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go with the guy who's willing to represent the 909, Kevin Holland. It's hard not to like the guy, man. He's out here stopping robbers in his off days. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
but I don't know what started the whole thing. Kevin Holland was pretty quick to make a video after it and was kind of like, oh, before this video gets out kind of thing. So that's making me think maybe it's him, but I don't want to speculate too much on that. But so I'm gonna go ahead and go Kevin Holland. I'll go decision, only because Santiago's he's a pretty proven guy, and I don't think that this fight gets to the finish, unless Holland is able to get a really late knockout, because he does have some heavy hands. I'll say that.
Yeah. There's always that chance.
Next fight up, Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez. Adrian Yanez on an incredible win streak right now. Let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9-fight win streak. And, nothing to scoff at. Starting his streak with 2 fights in Fury FC and LFA, two organizations known for really bringing in some high-level talent. Getting onto Dana White's Contender Series with a nice first-round finish over Brady Huang. Man, I am just fucking up these names. But more recently, getting a really cool win over Davey Grant, which was a split decision. I don't think it was as close, but some of the judging as of late has been very questionable. So much to the point where even me and you have been saying like, it doesn't feel like we're watching the same fight sometimes. And I get it. There are certain things that we're not going to see because we're not constantly reading up on judging criteria and state-specific judging criteria. However, when you have other officials saying that this is pretty shaky and we're not too sure how judging is going to happen going forward, I don't know. I have this fight going to a decision. Just based on Rob Font and how he's fought, and he's gotten a lot of fights to go to decision, whether he's won or lost. But I still think Adrian Yanez is going to roll Rob Font here. There's no disrespect to Rob Font, but he's losing to Marlon Vera and Jose Aldo in a decision win. I remember Jose Aldo piecing him up pretty well.
Yeah.
And as much as I really like Jose Aldo, I don't think, if you're a young guy, and you're really making waves over wins like Sergio Pettis, Ricky Simon, or Simone, Marlon Moraes, Cody Garbrandt, there's nothing worse than losing to, a guy who's kind of on his way out and Marlon Vera. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go Adrian Yanez. How do you see this fight playing out?
I have Yanez as well. Rob Font losing to Chito Vera, which was on a tear. The last fight extremely disappointing, but losing to Chito Vera, like, all right, a lot of people are losing to Chito Vera, but then the Jose Aldo thing, it's like you said, guy on his way out, shouldn't really be losing. Yanez, though, has been on a tear, so I just put momentum and confidence on the side of Yanez.
Awesome.
Because I think Yanez is gonna do some damage.
Yep, I would agree. I would absolutely agree. Moving on to the co-main event, and I'm pretty excited for this fight. A lot of people think it's going to be a steamroll. I think Jorge's kind of a dog in this fight. He has sneaky intelligence about fighting. So if you go back and you look at his blitz step work, especially against the fight with Darren Till, Darren was catching him. And Jorge said, enough of this, kind of bit down on his mouthpiece, took that blitz step forward, and was able to crack him. My thing is that Gilbert Burns' top pressure is so good. It's really good. Not to say that Jorge Masvidal hasn't been working on his wrestling, because remember, how long do you think he's been getting ready for a fight with Colby, or like how long was he getting ready for a fight with Colby? He knew he was going to wrestle. He's had 2 fights with Usman now, right? He's been in there with good wrestlers, guys with great top pressure. That being said, Gilbert Burns' top pressure is even better than that. It's tough to say that after the losses that Burns has, but that doesn't negate the fact that when he turns it on, it's on, and he's looking really good. He had a really close fight with Chimaev. Some would say should have went the other way. And I don't know how I would feel about that. I don't think it was like robbery, but it was close. It was a close fight, and maybe on another day, Burns can probably beat Chimaev now.
It was competitive for sure, which is something you can't say about Chimaev's fights.
Well, exactly, and you noticed how quickly everyone else was ready to chirp in as soon as Gilbert Burns put on the show, right? Now everyone wants to call out Chimaev because he's not the boogeyman anymore. He's not Shavkat. Yeah. Shavkat's the true boogeyman at that weight division, and it's amazing that the UFC is so blind to this. They're actively trying not to make that fight, or those fighters don't want to make that fight. And I have a feeling it's Chimaev. I have a sinking feeling Chimaev doesn't want that fight.
I have another theory.
Okay.
I think it just comes down to the whole like WWE showman aspect. He can't cut a promo. Chimaev can. They want to put Chimaev with somebody who could cut a promo with him. I think it's as simple as that. And I think Burns was supposed to be the big, like, okay, now Chimaev's going to beat this guy and everyone's going to think he is an absolute god. But instead, it kind of showed us, like, oh, you can fight this guy and turn it into an even playing field.
Yes.
So I think it kind of backfired on them. But I think it's as simple as that.
So in the case for Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal, right? So Gilbert Burns, the guy to say, I'll fight Chimaev. I don't care, right? Like,
yep.
And I'll put on a good performance. I'm not going to fight scared. I'm going to take it to him. I think he's going to do the same thing to Jorge Masvidal. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. Jorge Masvidal has great boxing. Great boxing. He has solid takedown defense. I would say that the first couple rounds, if there is a takedown, Jorge's going to get up pretty quickly. He's going to use a lot of strength to get up quickly, but he's going to get up quickly. He is going to tire out a little bit more than Gilbert Burns, especially if Gilbert can target the body of Jorge first. If he can start targeting the body and the legs, especially for a boxing heavy stance like Jorge takes, I think that's his path to victory. I'm going to go ahead and say Gilbert Burns submission, round 3, round 4.
Is this a 5-round fight?
Oh, wow. Round 3. Yes. Wow. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
It's a late finish, but Gilbert Burns, round 3. I did say something to one of our buddies about that being a wild pick, but the more and more I think about it, the more I kind of like it. How about you?
I did it for the points. I got super crazy and said first round submission for Burns.
Nice.
But honestly, I think that is the fairer pick. I think Masvidal is going to want to keep it on the feet as much as possible. I think Burns will match that energy for the most part, because Burns definitely isn't a I will wrestle you and control you the entire fight kind of guy. He will sit there and strike. He will, turn this into somewhat of a kickboxing match for sure. So I think we get some really good striking exchanges. I think it surprises people how well Burns does in those striking exchanges. But then I think in the later rounds, once Masvidal has had to wear Burns's weight a few times, I think Burns is able to sink it in, take it down, and lock something in.
Okay, so late round submission or late round TKO kind
of. Submission more likely, but never know. Could be Could be some crazy crucifix stuff for all we know.
Yeah, no kidding. It is MMA. Anything can happen, and that's one of the
Yeah.
beauties of it all. And that's how we got the absolute one of the craziest knockouts I've seen when Jorge Masvidal got knocked out by Usman. That was just so wild.
It was like watching a movie.
Yeah, no kidding. Coming up in the main event, the fight that everyone is talking about this week. And this fight really is overshadowing the rest of the card. And it's not even fair. I understand why, but there's so many good fights on this card. That being said, we have the awesome job to break this fight down and to kind of give our take. And I'm going to go ahead and let you start on this one, actually, because I feel like you really like this fight. So let's go ahead and hear what you got to say.
I just like the history behind it. The idea that now we're at fight number 4 and Izzy still hasn't gotten his name in the win column for this rivalry. And it, I've been talking about it a lot today. The whole idea of confidence, does that change anything for Adesanya? I think it might a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think Adesanya might be a little more hesitant to leave himself open. I think Adesanya definitely can win this fight because, they like to overshadow it with the highlights, but let's be real. Adesanya won every round of the last fight until he got knocked out. So the idea that this is going to be an absolute slaughtering, no, people need to stop watching just the highlights. But Alex's power is just so ridiculous. I actually have him winning. I have him winning late knockout again because I think it might get to that point where it turns into a little striking skirmish here, a little striking skirmish here, as opposed to like a full out war or anything like that. Because I think Izzy knows that if it turns into this war, that any moment Alex could end it, and Izzy does not have that same level to knock out Alex as far as power goes, because Izzy has knockout power, but not like Alex.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts?
Look, I think big guy, or I think small guys have proven that big guys can get knocked the fuck out. Right?
True.
Take a look at like the best case of this. Was it Roy Nelson versus Stefan Struve? Go back and watch that fight. Look how tall Stefan Struve fucking was, dude.
Yep.
And he can still get clipped with an overhand right. Now, here's the thing. It's crazy to say, or it's crazy to compare it to that fight only because Izzy isn't a small guy. He's very fucking lanky, right? He's used to being the guy with the reach. Alex is a big son of a bitch, and he cuts a lot of weight. A lot of weight. So much to the point that he's chirping at John Jones, and people are taking it very seriously. Like, no, that's a fight that can happen. Those guys have not similar builds, but almost, right? And that's a fight that I'm interested in only because it would just prove how much more of a goat John Jones is. He would maul Alex Pereira. But we're not here to talk about that. The comment section can come after me for that take, but I don't care. John Jones he's so much of a level ahead of everyone else. It's not even funny. That being said, Alex Pereira has had Izzy's number 4 times, knocked him out twice. It's hard not to argue that this guy has hands. He has the strength to just naturally have the hands, right? But I don't think it's just his size. I think he has like the gift, like the knockout gift. Like some people are born with it. Some people have to work for it. And some people who work for it their entire
left hand.
Yeah. Like Connor's left hand is just money. Alex Pereira's left hand, money. Right. Even that straight right that he sent to Sean Strickland. Right. Because Sean Strickland was like, oh, I'm going to try to post up. And as soon as he posts up, he leaves this inside the entire side of his face exposed and just boop, he gets cracked. Alex is smart. So is Izzy. The thing that I want to pay attention to is Alex Pereira's willingness to go at it earlier, only because if he goes at it earlier, I think he gets the finish way faster. That being said, it plays into Izzy's game, right? Izzy is a counter striker, and Alex knows this, right? Alex likes to walk forward. He likes to pressure you. He likes to be the one in your face, throwing the shots. If Izzy can slip, hit the counter, he has it. If Alex can find Izzy being late, or I'm sorry, not late, lazy, on his entries and his exits, then yeah, Alex has it. This is going to be a closer fight than people realize.
Yeah.
I might eat my words on that.
Right? I mean, if we even look at the last fight, the end of the second round, he got Alex. Alex was wobbled. He had to use the fence to stand up.
Yeah.
Like it got close. But at the same time, you know, what Izzy did to Alex, like if they would have kept it going in that same way, like Izzy would be on the floor. Like that's the difference in their power. Like, but yeah, like definitely the counter striking is there. Izzy can find those openings because we've seen it. He did get those openings.
He's gotten amazing fights with Kevin Gastelum. He's got an amazing finish over Robert Whittaker. There's, and you're talking about wins over guys where if he didn't beat them, they would be the undisputed champion. Robert Whittaker, literally, if any other man was champion, he'd be the champ. You know what I mean? Like it's, and maybe this is his kryptonite. Maybe Izzy can't get past this. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna lean that way. I think Izzy cannot get this done. But it is gonna be a closer fight. If the knockout happens early, even though Glover said that Alex should be a little bit more forward about it, I think Izzy would get the early knockout. I think he has more strength in that. His fights have been lackluster. He's a bit of an egomaniac. I think he wants to prove a point and get something done here. What about you?
I definitely can see that happening, especially if Alex is a little too overconfident. But Alex has been doing it so long and was so successful in kickboxing, as was Izzy, that I don't think Alex has that mindset to do something dumb to give him to like almost have like a deliberate opening. Just as I don't think Izzy is going to play dumb either. I think they're both going to go according to the game plan. I think we're going to see Izzy implement a lot more wrestling for sure.
I would love to see more wrestling from Izzy. That would be very fun to see. I think just to see his skill set improve, and to like mix it up. This is MMA. Like he said that to Alex Pereira. Okay, let's prove it. Let's smother him with wrestling. Here's the thing. Glover Teixeira is one of the best grapplers of 205. Was one of the best grapplers, right? He's finished.
Yep.
If Alex can't learn that from Glover, some takedown defense, it's going to be a rough night for Alex because Izzy is not going to want to create so much space. If I'm Izzy, I don't want to get hit I want to minimize how much I'm being hit because he can still take a hit. It's not to say that like Alex has this, he's going to hit him once and that's it. No. But I still think Izzy needs to close this up in order to finish it. But this is going to be a very tight fight, and I'm going to have some butterflies in my stomach watching this Saturday night.
Yeah, my only issue with like the whole wrestling thing, say Alex's defense is on point. What happens if Alex ends up on top? That's like getting ground and pounded by like the Mountain. Outdated Game of Thrones reference, but still. Like that could be a match ender right there.
Yep. What Izzy has to immediately want to get up. He cannot fight like he did with Jan Blachowicz.
Definitely not.
Like if he accepts bottom position, that's it. I don't think Alex has like the greatest ground game. I think Izzy can like maneuver around it. I'm sure his jiu-jitsu is solid. I'm not saying Alex doesn't have jiu-jitsu, right? But we're not talking about his world-class grappling. We're talking about his world-class kickboxing. Yeah. Israel Adesanya, was the champ and was a dominant champ for a long time. You don't get that way without dealing with a wrestler too. So I want to see him do what he needs to do, make a comeback, and maybe go for a trilogy, because I think this is an interesting trilogy in MMA.
Yeah.
That being said, I think we have reached the end of this card pre-fight breakdown. I know we do want to do a tier list of the fights after. I think that'll be a pretty fun piece of content to do. That being said, let's go ahead and let's rate this card, or at least just the main card. We can take into account the prelims, but I really just want the main card to be the focus here, because I know we have people like Cynthia Calvillo on the
early
prelims, which that just tells you how much of a fucking banger of a card this is. But if you had to give it a rating out of, I guess we'll say 5. If you had to give it a rating out of 5.
I think out of like excitement level and the capacity to just have absolute bangers, I'm gonna rate this a 4. Like, I feel like after the John Jones card, it's just like, dude, like, it's gonna be harder to compete with that for like a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm gonna put it at a 4. How about you?
Yeah, I got this at about a 4. This is really one of those cards that I'm so glad I'm not working. You know what I mean? Like I really didn't want to have to watch this from my phone. This is gonna be a really good card front to back. I think we're gonna see some really good grappling exchanges in the Raul Rosas Jr. fight. I think we're gonna see some great striking. From the Kevin Holland fight, the Burns Masvidal fight, the Pereira Izzy fight. This is just a solid card. I think if maybe we had one more title fight. I mean, I know that's too much to ask for. If we had one more title fight, that would just push it to a 5, probably. Only because there's not much you can do. I just think that maybe the third to last fight maybe doesn't make sense, but competitively, I guess so. Like where it's at in the main event. But that being said, thank you everyone for sticking around to the very end. And like always, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because apparently YouTube does not like us if we don't do that. And we will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you.